This is an important day, and I appreciate your joining me. Dave, thank you for allowing us to use your parking lot. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many structures of our society into sharp relief. And we've all been shown just how vital certain services that we've always taken for granted could actually be. In the spring, much of the Commonwealth, as you'll recall, closed down to protect public health and to save lives, to keep Pennsylvanians from getting sick with a disease that scientists and doctors and all of us were struggling to understand. And we were successful here in Pennsylvania. We flattened the curve and we stopped the surge of COVID-19 cases in the Commonwealth. The mitigation efforts we put into place in the spring were what they were, and it was what we needed to be. It gave us time. We were trying to buy time, and it gave us time to try to fight this virus. And it worked. It allowed us to build up inventories of protective equipment. It allowed us to figure out how we could take a more targeted mitigation effort if and when we needed to do that. And it has allowed us to reopen businesses all across the Commonwealth. And we have to think back to those early days in March and April. We had business closures. We had shelter in place. We don't have any of that anymore. We're all in the green phase in Pennsylvania and have been for a long time. But those first couple months were really important in allowing us to get to this place. It bought us the time we needed to make sure that none of us, our healthcare systems, anything was overwhelmed. But even during that time, when we had shelter in place, when we had stay-at-home orders, we actually had a lot of people working in essential businesses. And they did the things that we needed them to do so we could stay home and we could stay safe during that period of time. And I think we need to recognize the folks who worked in industries including food processing, food manufacturing, food retailing, going to the supermarket, always took that for granted. Those folks were on the front line in healthcare, childcare, janitorial services, and transportation. These workers have gone above and beyond to continue providing vital services to the Commonwealth. They did it back then, and they're continuing to do it now. More people are actually coming back. And I think we need to recognize and tell them how grateful we are for what they did for us. Again, they did this in many cases at great risk to themselves. And although our Commonwealth has reopened over the past few months, these frontline employees are still the ones who bear the greatest risks. As we've opened, they're still on the front lines. They continue to go out every day. They continue to work closely with the public while we fight a pandemic that thrives when people spend time together doing what they're doing. And they do it so that all of us, their neighbors, all of us can access food, medical care, and all of the things that support life in the Commonwealth. So Pennsylvanians who work frontline essential jobs during this pandemic deserve our gratitude and our respect. But gratitude and respect goes only so far. They need to be compensated for the hard and dangerous work that they did for us and that they continue to do. And that's why this summer I announced the PA Hazard Pay Grant Program. And through this program, we directed $50 million, which we thought was going to be enough in grant funding to provide hazard pay for employees in life-sustaining occupations. It was created to keep frontline employees working in these vital sectors and to compensate them appropriately for the additional hazards that their jobs entailed. And the program was in high demand right from day one. We got more than 10,000 applications in a 2-week application period, and that was a really competitive program. In the end, 639 employers were awarded the $50 million in funding for hazard pay increases for their employees. It has become clear, though, that that was far from being enough. That was not enough. There are many more employers who still want to participate in the program and had good applications that we just didn't have with $50 million, didn't have the capacity to deal with. Employers are dedicated to making sure their employees are compensated for the hard work they do. They see this as a necessary benefit. And that's why I'm calling on the General Assembly to allocate another additional money, this time $225 million more to the hazard pay program. That would be on top of the $50 million that has already gone out. That amount would cover a $3 an hour increase in pay for 208,000 frontline workers all across the Commonwealth. It would put more money into the hands of Pennsylvanians who've been on the front lines in this pandemic from day one, and it would give needed support to essential workers, the very ones who have done so much to keep us safe throughout this pandemic. This additional funding, again, comes from CARES Act money. It comes from the money that we have kept in reserve, $1 billion, so that we can do this. We have that money in reserve. Again, the need for additional hazard pay is clear. Many employers still want to participate in the program, and so I urge the General Assembly to join me in giving Pennsylvania's businesses and their workers the support they deserve. They've kept us safe. Now we need to compensate them for the risk that they've taken for us. Now I'm very proud to turn this over to the Secretary of Department of Community and Economic Development, Dennis Davin. Dennis.
Thank you, and I am very proud to be here with you, Governor, and with David Black and Melissa Stone from Creative. Thanks for having us here, and thanks for letting us use your parking lot. We appreciate it. So over the past several months, this pandemic has placed a heavy burden on Pennsylvanians, but some of the heaviest burdens have been borne on the shoulders of our frontline workers. COVID-19 has given me and so many other Pennsylvanians a new perspective on these difficult jobs that our nurses, doctors, grocery store workers, meat packers, home care workers, and so many others wake up and go to every single day. These jobs have never been easy, but during this pandemic, we've all come to realize the critical role they play in ensuring that we can go about our daily lives safely. Governor Wolf and this administration recognize that as these frontline workers answer the call, we need to in turn give back to them. The COVID-19 Hazard Grant Pay Program administered by us at DCED provides extra income to employees in critical industries. These workers didn't stop when COVID-19 appeared in the Commonwealth. They continued to show up and help each and every day. This $3 per hour increase is a small way we can help our frontline workers. Through this program, as the governor mentioned, 639 employers received $50 million increase in pay to increase the pay of almost 42,000 full-time employees across 7 industries, from healthcare to food services, retail, security, transportation. These are just a few examples of the industries and the people served by this funding. But it's vital to note that during the application period, as expected, and as the governor mentioned, the demand for this program was exceptionally high. Thousands of eligible and deserving Pennsylvania businesses applied for this funding. In fact, 5,000 businesses were eligible to receive hazard pay grants, but there simply wasn't enough funding to go around. However, the governor's committed. We're committed to finding new avenues to support those businesses and their employees, and we're here today to call for just that. Our frontline workers deserve this additional pay as a small token of appreciation for the great risk and sacrifice they put themselves and their families under. Put simply, it's the right thing to do. Sometimes, in this new normal of wearing masks and socially distancing from others, it can be easy to forget that on either side of a business transaction, there's a person with responsibilities, hopes, dreams, challenges, and fears. And behind every single company, there are dozens or hundreds or thousands of people who keep the lights on, lines running, and phones answered. The businesses represented here today, a janitorial service and 2 stores, offer 3 perfect glimpses at the people behind Pennsylvania's critical businesses. They came to work each day to provide critical services to customers. They worked with an often frustrated and nervous general public. They ensured the safety and well-being of both their workers and those that they serve. So today, we thank Mary and Navtej for their work. We thank them for their service to the community, and you're going to hear from them in a minute. We thank all of Pennsylvania's frontline workers who are committed to what they do and committed to helping others. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work of our legislative partners and our local development groups like Creative with David Black and Melissa Stone, who were here today. And if it weren't for the efforts put forth by them to support these small businesses, none of us would be here today. So we really appreciate the work, David, appreciate the work, Melissa, that you've done to get us here. So thank you on behalf of your businesses and your communities. With that being said, I'll now turn the podium over to Melissa Stone, Vice President of Economic Development for Creative. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor, for this opportunity to be here today. Capital Region Economic Development Corporation, also called CREDIC, is the economic development arm of the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. We are a certified economic development organization by the Commonwealth to support economic development activities in Cumberland, Dauphin, and Perry counties. Organizations like ours across the state were asked to help with the hazard pay program this past summer by pooling employers together in one application for each of our communities. We were excited to assist in this program because it acknowledges the risk that heroic frontline workers face every day in their jobs. Our application represented many various employers and a wide variety of employees, including home health, health care, security forces, janitorial services, food producer, and grocery workers. But the demand was great. It was so great that only a small fraction of our $2.2 million request was able to be granted. So the demand remains, and the interest in frontline workers remains. Should funding become available, we would be eager to help our region's employers access the funding for their frontline workers. The health concern isn't over yet, so the economic struggles continue. Businesses across many industries are facing tough times and tough decisions. It is important that public policy continue to support individuals and businesses hit hardest to get through this and be prepared for recovery on the other side. So thank you for being here at the Chamber and CREDIC today and asking us to participate. It is my pleasure to introduce one of the employers who received some of the award. That would be Mary Caverly of Facility Concierge Services.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Calverley with Facility Concierge Services. We are a janitorial service provider here in the greater Harrisburg area, cleaning millions of square feet of commercial office space in addition to schools. First off, I do really want to thank Governor Wolf on behalf of our employees, for the passing of the hazard pay grant and being able to recognize our frontline workers who have not stopped working since the date of the stay-at-home orders that went into place on March 16th. In the facilities that we were cleaning, many employers were sending their employees home. In turn, I was calling up my employees to rise to the occasion and to keep coming in, to keep cleaning. Many of the companies had their essential workers that were coming into the office buildings to keep their businesses running. Our staffs were coming in to make sure that their areas that they were using were clean and disinfected so that their employees would feel safe in the environment that they were being asked to come into. Our employees literally just have not stopped working. When I found out from Melissa that we were fortunate enough to have received the hazard pay grant, I was just so appreciative and grateful that I was able to pass along to our staff that they were being recognized as frontline workers and that we were going to be able to offer this additional $3 an hour to them during the 10-week time frame that the grant applies to. It not only helps us as an employer of retaining our current employees, but it's also helping us attract new employees that we may lose just from turnover. As employees leave, we still have to have that person replaced. So we are able to be competitive with some of the big box employers that are out here, that it bridges that gaps, and it is helping us attract new employees. It's helping us show the appreciation that we may not have otherwise been able to do had we not received the funds from the hazard pay grant. So I am extremely grateful and appreciative of the fact that we were able to receive these additional funds, and that we were able to recognize our employees. As janitorial services in the past, we are always looked at or being called upon as frontline workers, and this truly did solidify the work that they've been doing day in and day out, and continue to do so to keep our facilities safe for individuals coming in and continuing to work, and hopefully get us reopened where we have full buildings again. So I can't wait for that day. But again, thank you so much, and I appreciate being invited here today. I'm going to go ahead and pass the podium to Navtel Grail. He's the owner of Market on Market in Harrisburg. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Navteej Singh Grewal from Market on Market. Best cup of coffee, reasonable price, downtown Harrisburg if you're in the area. We thank Governor Tom Wolf for hazardous pay program for employees. It's not only a financial help for the employees, also a token of encouragement and appreciation. As a small business owner, it's hard to come up with extra funds for employees for their to appreciate their work. That's when these programs come handy, because the sales are down almost up to 60%. As we know, a lot of businesses are closing down, Harrisburg, downtown Harrisburg, and a lot of other places. So these programs are very, very crucial. This hazard pay program, also whatever the future programs the governor can help us with as a small business, it will be very, very appreciative. It's hard work being the frontline workers for any small business or any office facility. It's frustrating. It's extra work. You got to keep everything sanitized, clean, inviting, and sometimes it's overwhelming for the employees. So we cannot appreciate enough, especially my employees. I thank them every day. I have a lot of college students. Any extra dollar will come handy toward their college funds or whatnot, or their staying in Harrisburg. So we really, really appreciate for all the programs, and also we look forward to any future programs coming along to help us out. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Right now, next speaker is Representative Patty Kim. Honor to announce her. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank Governor Wolf for shining a light on the frontline workers that kept us fed, healthy, and safe for the last 6 months. It's always good to say thank you and show our appreciation to these workers, but we can do more. We can compensate them for the stress and risk that they've endured since March. While many of us got to telework and be with our children in the safety of our homes, these frontline workers went outside to the unknown and never knew what they would bring home to their own families. Saying thank you is simply not enough. The first round of funding for hazard pay helped about 42,000 full-time employees. I'm grateful for the employers that signed up for the extra pay. We all know that when you take care of the employees, they will take care of your customers. I'm here to support the call by Governor Wolf for round 2 of hazard pay. If we granted every application during the first round, it would have a price tag of about $1 billion. But we gave out $50 million. It's better than nothing. We could distribute more funding for these small business owners who are our backbone of our economy if only my colleagues in the General Assembly would give the green light and release the funds that are sitting idle while others are struggling. Let's keep our economy moving while paying these frontline workers the pay they deserve. Thank you very much, and I'd like to turn it over to Governor Wolf once again.
Thanks, Patty. Is Mary Isaacson here? No, not here. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Big crowd here. Yes. Fine. How are you?
So this was, if I'm correct, this is part of that fall plan that you released back in, I think it was the end of August, this $225 million. How much money is left of the CARES Act funding? Is it about $1 billion left?
We started with a little over $1 billion, I think, and so this would take it down to $700 million. But there, as you point out, there are other things that are in that.
Obviously, there's a lot of individuals in the state legislature that are coming up with their own proposals for how they want the CARES Act funding to be used. I guess, do you have any concerns that there's going to be, when it comes down to it, there's going to be a fight over what gets passed and what doesn't? I mean, this is many would consider hazard pay is a big thing for frontline workers. Could this get overshadowed by other proposals?
It could. I mean, I think everybody, we're a democracy, so everybody has their own ideas to what we ought to be using the money for. But let me point out that the Commonwealth got $3.6 billion from the CARES Act funding, and together we have agreed on allocating $2.6 billion. And the only reason we have this reserve is because we agreed that we ought to keep this as we go into the fall, because we just didn't know what else we were going to be facing. So I think there'll be a lot of ideas. What I've been trying to say is let's focus on the folks who have the businesses. I've talked about focusing on the entertainment industry, especially the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars, hotels, salons, barbershops. Let's do some things to help them, because they've been especially hard hit by this pandemic. And I think those are the ideas that I have. I think we can probably all agree that we need to do some good things. Whether we agree 100% on what to do with that $1 billion, I'm sure there'll be plenty of discussions, and I look forward to it. I'm just pointing out we have a lot of worthy causes that ought a lot of claimants on that $1 billion that we ought to take very seriously.
Speaking of the hospitality industry, restaurant industry, you're proposing $100 million of CARES Act funding to go to that industry, correct?
Yes.
Senator Martin, for example, he's going to propose next week $500 million. Mm-hmm. He thinks $100 million is not enough to bridge that gap. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's the kind of thing we ought to do. I love it, the fact that we ought to do something. That's what he's saying, and I'm saying we ought to do something. Am I right at $100 million? I don't know. Is he right at $500 million? I don't know. But the thing is that I think it's a welcome sign that we're all saying, here's an industry that has been hurting and has been hit especially hard. Let's figure out what we can do about this. Dennis, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Governor. I think the Governor's absolutely right. I mean, there's so much demand in that particular space, in those particular industries, restaurant, lodging, and others. There's also demand in the other ones, as you've seen with some of the funding that has been utilized through our small business grant program, through the community development financial institutions, and even the counties, that the county grant, CARES Grant Act funds. So there is a tremendous amount of demand everywhere, and this is something that I think the Governor talked about to begin the discussion.
Any other questions?
Hi, I hate to switch topics on you here, but the Pennsylvania Supreme Court just extended the deadline for those mail-in ballots. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, it sounds like a good, I think it just came out, about an hour ago. So we're still reviewing. I've spoken with the Attorney General about it and spoken with the General Counsel, our staff, our Chief of Staff, and who was talking with the General Counsel. And we're just reviewing it to see exactly what it means. So I aside from the fact that I'm generally pleased that with what I know of the ruling, I think it really makes the access to voting better, and so I welcome the decision.
Pennsylvania votes obviously critical, and Republican leaders say this will put those into question. Do you think that's true?
I'm not sure how it puts them into question. I think it expands access to the polls, which as someone who thinks our democracy is pretty good, this is something that makes it more robust, makes the vote that much easier. And again, we worked on a bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats worked together to pass Act 77 back in late 2019. I thought that was a great, I mean, I signed it really quickly. I thought that was a great move forward. And it sounds like what the Supreme Court has ruled makes what we did in working together, Republicans and Democrats, what we did in 2019 makes it a little better. Anything else? All right. Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody.